This is tutorial 1-2 in GIS Tutorial Workbook 3. In this tutorial, we're going to continue creating a geodatabase, but we're going to be expanding the logical model. Now, in this one, we're going to be learning how to make a featured data set inside a geodatabase. Now, what this does is, first we're going to name this database, or the geodatabase, and we're going to just call it utility data. Now, you can further classify this into other categories. For this one, we're doing wastewater. You could have one for electrical, drinking water, and other categories like that, and they would all be inside the same geodatabase under utility data. But then you would have subcategories for each kind of utility, so it really helps with organization. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the sewer lines, because that's the main focus of wastewater, is the sewer pipes. And pipes are linear, so we're going to make it a line feature. And we're going to give it a name, sewer line. And make sure you have no spaces, because when you're naming a feature class, you either have a underscore or you push multiple words into one word. But in the alias, we can have spaces. And those aliases can be put onto the arc map on the map to where they work as a label. So it'll look cleaner if you use those descriptions in your tables. Now that we have our feature class, we can create a table for it. So you want to go into your table tab and you want to put sewer lines. And then we just want to start adding our fields. And we have pipe size, material, year built, and description. And like I said in the last tutorial, you want to be careful with the spelling, because how you spell it here, you want to have it what it's going to look like once we put this into ArcMap. And then we're going to assign field types, and for pipe size, you're going to want short interval. For material, text, long integer for year built, and for description, text. Now, with year built and pipe size, you could actually use short integer for both, because they both fall within the domain or the range of values for small integer. The only difference is small integer takes less space when saving. So if space is a major concern, people use small integer over long integer. It's the same thing with float and double. Float is a smaller range of numbers, but it doesn't take as much space when saving. Double, you have a much larger range of numbers that you can choose from, but it takes a little bit more space. And the same goes for short and long integer. Okay, now we're going to do what these fields mean. So we have pipe size, pipe material, year built, and owner. And what they want us to do is they want us to go in and now assign null values, just like we did in the last one. The only one that gets allowed null values is year built, because some pipes are going to be really old, and if there was ever an event where they could have been deleted or records lost, you wouldn't know what year they were built. But for most cases, you're going to know. So the rest of these, we just put N for no. And now what we're going to do is we're going to give pipe size a domain, because we have certain sizes that are constantly used for piping. So we're going to do sewer pipe sizes. And then we go into our domain. We call it sewer pipe size. And then we give it the description. It's going to be a short integer, domain code, coded value, and we're going to have 6, 8, 10, and 12. Now, most people, if they've ever worked with pipes, they would be able to assume that these are inches. But in case you have someone that's not familiar with piping, it's important to have a description which makes that more readily known. So you'd put 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. Now we're going to go back to our geodatabase and we're going to add a new one. And these are called interceptors. And I guess these are where the pipes connect. And I guess these have wider range of sizes. And they can go much higher than 12, which is the standard. So we're going to give these their own feature because they're a special kind of pipe. Okay. Now, the thing with this is going to be a little bit easier because they're very much like the pipes, or the sewer lines. So we're going to put them in here, interceptor, and we can just copy what's here and paste it here. Because they're going to have the same things. We're not going to give it a domain just because the sizes can vary so much that it would be simpler just to allow someone to put whatever values they want. So now we're going to be done with that, and we're going to go back to sewer lines, and we're going to be looking at pipe material. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a subtype for sewer material. Sewer line material. And it'll run off your little screen a little bit. And now that we have a subtype, we go to our subtypes tab. We type in sewer line material. And we give it a code. First one's going to be 1. And it's going to be PVC. Oop. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to give these fields. This is going to be pipe size, description, and year built. And this one is going to be connected to the sewer pipe size. So we're just going to put sewer pipe size. And I guess 8 is the most common. So you'd want a default value of 8. And seeing that most piping or sewer is done by the city. The description, the owner is going to normally be the city, and uh, except for a few rare exceptions. So, and most of these seem to have been replaced relatively recently, so they would know about the year most of the piping was put in, so you'd want that as your default. And then you just go in, you put 2 HDPE, and they want you to do pretty much the same thing. Now, the HDPE has a different default value, so we can just go pipe size, description, year built, or you can cut and paste, whatever is easier. But the default for this one is 10 inches. Olender is still the default setting, and 2010 is still the year built. They want us to do one more type of material, and it's just ductile iron. So we come over here in 3, DI, and we do pipe size, description, and year built. Sewer pipe size is our domain name. And for these guys, they are normally in 12 inches. So pipe size seems to be determined based on the material. Olender is the owner for most cases, and then 2010. So those are going to be our defaults. Now, with older material, they might not have all the material or all the information about it, but they still want it accounted for because you still need to know what's there while you're doing construction, or you don't want to be cutting into something and have it damage equipment because you didn't know it was there. So we're going to add 2 more codes. 4 is going to be concrete, abbreviated as CONC, and you just do pipe size, description, and year built. You're not going to give domain names, and you're not going to give default values, because for these are kind of like wild cards. You don't exactly know what those are going to be, so we're just going to leave them blank, and they can be filled in when they're discovered. And 5 is going to be clay, and you just do the same thing. Pipe size, description, year built. Now, we're going to go back to our geodatabase, and as with many sewers, you have to have access points, and that's what our next thing is going to be. It's going to be points for sewer fixtures. So we have a point, PNT, as told by down here, and it's going to be sewer fixture. We're going to go to our table, and I had to add a few more of these columns because in this one it's a little too short than it needs to be, so I made it a little longer. So I'm going to put sewer fixtures, and then I'm going to give the fields that they want. Fixed type, flow line. Actually, I'm going to go across with these because it's easier to do. Fixture type, and no. Flow line is going to be float. And this one is where description or alias comes into to help us, because if you just saw a flow line, you wouldn't really know it had anything to do with elevation. Okay, so yours should look something very similar. And as you can see, we're allowing a lot of nulls in this one, just because that information might not be known or could not even be necessary to have in certain areas, or too difficult to measure. So you wouldn't want to tie up, because by having nulls, you can always go back in and fill them up. I think it would be more important to have fixture type than, say, year built. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to give a subtype to the fixed type. So we're going to come over here, and it's just going to be sewer fix type. And then we're also going to give some defaults. Now for year built, most of these were built in 2010, so we're going to give it that number. And the owner for most of them are going to be Olender. So we're going to give a default. If it's something else, they simply just change it for the ones that are different. Now we're going to go back to our subtypes tab. And we're going to add some codes. So we're going to skip a line. And we're just going to put in sewer fixed type. We're going to give a code. 1 is going to be manhole. And 2 is going to be clean out. Now they don't have any fields or anything else for that. They just wanted us to know the 2 different ones. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to add a new point feature, and this is going to be interceptor fixtures. Okay. Now we're going to go into tables, and we're going to add this information. Interceptor fix. And we're going to create our fields for it. And we have flow line, which is a float. And if you want, just to be quicker, seeing that we've already done this, I'm just going to copy and paste the ones that are the same. So this one, they only have these ones right here. So we're just going to copy those. We're going to paste them. Now the reason we don't have fixed type is because all of the ones for interceptor fixtures are all manholes. So a fixed type wouldn't be necessary because there's just the only one type. And they do want a default value for year built, and that's 2010. And that's all you have to do for this tutorial. In the next few ones, we're going to be learning how to take this information and actually put it into our catalog.